There was once a small village hidden between dry hills and endless roads. People there lived simple lives. They worked hard, spoke little, and carried their struggles quietly. But among them lived a boy named Eli. Eli was different. While other children chased games, laughter, and excitement, Eli spent his days collecting broken things, broken cups, cracked tools, bent pieces of metal, old clocks that no longer moved, shoes nobody wanted. Every morning, he walked through the village with an old sack over his shoulder, searching for things others had thrown away. The villagers laughed at him. "Look at the trash boy," they whispered. "He spends his life collecting useless things." Some mocked him openly. Others shook their heads with pity. But Eli never argued. He never became angry. He simply smiled and continued walking. At the edge of the village stood a tiny wooden house where Eli lived with his grandfather. His grandfather was old, very old. His hands trembled when he moved, his back bent with age. But his eyes still carried peace. One evening, as Eli returned home carrying another sack of broken objects, his grandfather asked softly, "Why do you collect things nobody wants?" Eli placed the sack on the floor. Then he answered, "Because I think broken things still have stories." The old man smiled. "Most people only see what something has lost," he said. "Very few people see what still remains." Eli never forgot those words. Years passed. The boy continued collecting broken things, and the village continued laughing. But slowly, something unusual began happening. The broken things Eli collected started changing. An old clock became a beautiful decoration. A cracked table became stronger than before. Bent metal became art. Old shoes became flower pots. Eli repaired what he could, and what he could not repair, he transformed. People began noticing. Travelers passing through the village often stopped near Eli's house. They admired his creations. They bought them. They told others about the strange young man who could turn useless things into something beautiful. But even then, many villagers still mocked him. "Fixing trash will never make you successful," they said. Eli simply smiled because deep inside, he understood something most people did not. The world is quick to throw away what it no longer understands. One winter, the village faced difficult times. The harvest failed. The river became weak. Money disappeared. Families struggled. Shops closed. Fear spread quietly through the streets. And for the first time in many years, people began noticing how fragile their lives really were. One evening, the village leader gathered everyone beneath the old tree in the center of town. "We do not have enough supplies," he said heavily. "We must survive the winter carefully." The villagers stood silently. Then someone spoke. "What about Eli?" The crowd turned. "He has spent years collecting useless things." Another man said bitterly, "Maybe now he will finally understand that life is not built on broken pieces." Some people laughed, but the laughter felt weaker than before, because hard times have a strange way of exposing pride. That night, snow began falling heavily. The cold became unbearable. Families burned old furniture to stay warm. Children cried from hunger, and slowly, hope began disappearing. Then something unexpected happened. Eli opened the doors of his workshop. Inside were shelves filled with repaired tools, warm blankets he had stitched from discarded fabric, containers built from broken wood, lamps repaired from abandoned metal. For years, while others laughed, Eli had been preparing, not because he expected praise, but because he believed nothing should be wasted. One by one, people came to him. A farmer needed tools. Eli gave them. A mother needed warmth for her children. Eli handed her blankets. An old man needed a lamp. Eli repaired one quietly and placed it in his hands. The villagers stared in disbelief. The same boy they once mocked was now helping everyone survive. Days passed. The village slowly became stronger, and something inside people began changing. They no longer looked at Eli with laughter. Now they looked at him with confusion, respect, even shame. One afternoon, the village leader visited Eli's workshop. The old man looked around carefully. Everywhere he turned, he saw beauty created from things others had abandoned. Finally, he asked, "How did you know these things would become useful?" Eli paused. Then he answered softly, "My grandfather once told me something. He said, most people only see what something has lost, but wisdom—" He looked around the workshop. "Wisdom sees what still remains." The village leader lowered his eyes, because suddenly he understood something painful. The villagers had not only thrown away objects, they had thrown away people, ideas, dreams, possibilities, all because they judged too quickly. That night, word spread across the village, and for the first time, people stopped mocking Eli. Instead, they began bringing him broken things willingly, not because they wanted him to fix them, but because they wanted to learn. Eli welcomed everyone. Children sat beside him, watching carefully. He taught them how to repair wood, how to shape metal, how to create beauty from damage, but most importantly, he taught them patience. Broken does not mean worthless, he would say. Sometimes broken things simply need different eyes. Years later, the village changed completely. People became slower to judge, kinder with one another, more careful with their words, and the small workshop at the edge of the village became something special. Not because it created beautiful objects, but because it reminded people of an important truth. Everything carries value, even when the world cannot immediately see it. One evening, Eli sat outside his workshop beside his grandfather. The sky burned orange with sunset. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Then the old man smiled gently. "You learn the lesson," he whispered. Eli looked at him. "What lesson?" His grandfather pointed toward the village. "The world breaks many things," he said. "Objects, dreams, people. But wisdom—" He paused. "Wisdom is knowing that broken things are not finished things." Eli sat silently, because deep inside, he knew those words were true. Some people are broken by failure, some by rejection, some by loss, some by loneliness, and many spend their lives believing their cracks make them weak. But sometimes, the very places where we are broken become the places where light enters. The villagers never forgot Eli, not because he repaired broken objects, but because he repaired something far more important: the way people saw value. And from that day forward, whenever someone felt useless, unwanted, or forgotten, the elders of the village would say, "Take your broken pieces to Eli," not because he could magically fix everything, but because he would remind them of something the world often forgets. What is broken still matters. And sometimes, the most valuable things in life are the things that survived being shattered. So if you are carrying wounds, mistakes, failures, or scars, remember this: your brokenness does not erase your value. The world may overlook you, people may misunderstand you, some may even laugh at your struggles, but never decide your worth based on people who only see the surface. Because wisdom is not the ability to find perfection. Wisdom is the ability to recognize value where others see none. If this story spoke to your heart, comment. Broken does not mean worthless. And remember,
some of the most beautiful things in this world were once broken, too. As the story comes to an end, remember this. The world may call something broken, weak, or imperfect, but that does not mean it has lost its value. Sometimes the things that survive the hardest battles become the most beautiful parts of all. If this story touched your heart or made you see yourself a little differently, take a moment to like this video and share it with someone who needs this message today. You never know whose life might change because you chose to spread a little wisdom and kindness. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you can stay with us for more and inspiring stories like this one. We're here to remind you that you are not alone, that your struggles do not define your worth, and that your story still matters. I'll be back soon with another story that will touch your heart and maybe even change the way you see the world. Until then, be kind to yourself, be kind to others, and never forget this truth. Broken does not mean worthless. Sometimes the things with the deepest cracks are the ones that let the most light in. Stay grateful, stay humble, and keep shining in your own unique way. See you in the next story.